further than I would have gone. Well, you know who his neighbor's going to be? That awful media-loving Rabbi Botich Shmuley or whatever.
Shmuley Botok.
Yeah, Shmuley Botok. He's like the Michael Jackson hanger on. Like, never have a more awful Jew and a more awful Arab shared the same place before.
I mean,
and it's a great thing.
It's his next-door neighbor. He wrote the book Kosher Sex.
Yes.
This is a reality show. He's got Shmuley Botok living beside him. He's got an air-conditioned Bedouin tent he travels with 40 female bodyguards.
That is awesome.
And
I'm beginning to admire him even more now.
It's going to be the real terrorists of New Jersey. It's perfect.
Amazing.
In tonight's playbook, a diplomatic nightmare is looming for the Obama administration. Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi is coming to the United States in a few weeks to address the UN General Assembly. U.S.-Libyan relations have plummeted since the Lockerbie bomber got a hero's welcome last week when he returned home to Libya after his controversial release from a Scottish prison. And now a conflict's brewing over where Gaddafi's going to stay while he's here in the United States. At first, he wanted to camp out at Central Park. Well, that didn't work with New York authorities. That didn't go over very good. So now it looks like he's going to pitch his tent across the river in Englewood, New Jersey, on the grounds of a Libyan-owned estate, which just happens to be next door to Rabbi Shmuley Botok, host of Shalom in the Home. Good to have you with us, Rabbi.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time tonight. What's wrong with this? Why not?
Okay, imagine if you have a neighbor, and he put on a giant party for Timothy McVeigh, and he lofted him into the air, called him an American hero. You would deduce two things. Number one, my neighbor's a pretty twisted guy. Number two, I better protect my family from him.
I say back! I say back! Back! I say back!
Further than I would have gone. Well, you know who his neighbor's going to be? That awful media-loving Rabbi Botich Shmuley or whatever.
Shmuley Botok.
Yeah, Shmuley Botok. He's like the Michael Jackson hanger on. Like, never have a more awful Jew.
I say back!
Further than I would have gone. Well, you know who his neighbor's going to be? That awful media-loving Rabbi Botich Shmuley or whatever.
Shmuley Botok.
Yeah, Shmuley Botok. He's like the Michael Jackson hanger on. Like, never have a more awful Jew and a more awful Arab shared the same place before. And it's a great thing.
It's his next-door neighbor. He wrote the book Kosher Sex.
Yes.
This is a reality show. He's got Shmuley Botok living beside him. He's got an air-conditioned Bedouin tent he travels with 40 female bodyguards.
That is awesome.
And
I'm beginning to admire him even more now.
It's going to be the real terrorists of New Jersey. It's perfect.
Amazing.
That's exactly what my neighbor,
How's the neighborhood
Muammar
feel?
Gaddafi,
How's the neighborhood feel?
They
about
are
it?
absolutely opposed. All of us who watched this stomach-turning spectacle in Tripoli of the Lockerbie bomber being lauded as some sort of returning conqueror, we've seen Gaddafi's true colors. There was this hope, Ed, that Gaddafi had ameliorated, that he was no longer what Ronald Reagan called the mad dog of the Middle East, that he was now the passive poodle of Tripoli. But we now see he's a supporter of terror, lover of terrorists, he's a financier of terrorists.
So what do you want the president to do about this? Deny him the visa, or this would, of course, play in the wheelhouse of the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton?
Well, he is the leader of the free world, and this is a guy who supports terrorism. This country, our country, is opposed to terrorists. There has to be some price that Gaddafi pays for this spectacle he put on. But just think about this. Would anyone watching this program want a small army of Libyan intelligence officials who protect Gaddafi being right next door to them? They cut down my trees because they want to peer into our property to protect Gaddafi from me.
I'm a property rights guy here now, okay? I'm from the Midwest. You mean to tell me they cut down trees on your property that you pay taxes on?
That is correct, and they don't pay any taxes because they claim diplomatic immunity.
Okay, so how do they get away with that?
Well,
where's the governor?
Well, I'm going to have to sue them in order to extract every last penny so that Libyan money is put towards peaceful things like planting trees and not planting bombs.
I say back! Back! I say back!
How long how long has this been planned? I mean, I understand they've been working on this estate for some time.
This has been a dilapidated estate that for 10 years they didn't put $1 in. It was overgrown. It was a communal eyesore. They've now put in millions and millions of dollars. There's an army working day in and day out to prepare for Gaddafi.
Where's Senator Lautenberg on this? I understand.
Senator Lautenberg is absolutely opposed to Gaddafi coming to New Jersey.
Can they limit his travel in the United States?
I asked him that, and from what I understand, it's the State Department that would have to do that.
Okay. But you want Hillary Clinton to make a move on this and deny his visa?
Well, if Hillary Clinton wants him, I like Hillary Clinton. If she wants Gaddafi to come to the country, let him pitch his tent in front of her, in front of her property.
Well,
I don't want Gaddafi as my neighbor. I don't want a terrorist as my neighbor.
Well, how do you feel about the Scottish government doing this? Does this mean that all Scots can't come to the United States
No,
too?
it means that I may limit one or two of my little whiskey glasses because I think the Scottish government needs to pay a price for doing a deal with the devil. They released this guy on compassionate grounds. Is that compassionate for the families, the 270 devastated families who have to relive their horrors?
Well, I have to ask you this question, devil's advocate. I got some email after you were on the radio show today. What about Benjamin Netanyahu? How people view him in the world? Some of the things that he's pulled in his lifetime don't sit well with everybody on the face of the earth.
Well, let's look at the two. One is a democratically elected leader in a country where Arabs have the right to vote. The other is a dictator for almost 40 years who his regime is kept aloft over on a sea of oil. And I've seen the way they spend money for him to come for 3 days to New Jersey. Millions of dollars. If Netanyahu tried to do that, he'd be in jail. That's why he would never try.
Is there going to be any protests in the neighborhood or anything like that?
Big protest is coming Sunday, 11 a.m. Turn up. Come on, guys. Give me a hand here. I shouldn't have to fight this guy alone. None of you should want Gaddafi as your neighbor.
You said the whole neighborhood was against
this. The whole neighbors, we need hundreds of people. Hundreds are coming. I hope thousands will turn out. I hope Gaddafi gets the message back in Tripoli. You want to celebrate murderers? Don't come to America.
Do you expect a response from the president?
I hope that the president,
because he was against the release.
Right. Well, he's a committed family man, and I'm sure he understands that I'm raising 9 children in that home, and I don't need state-of-the-art surveillance devices monitoring me as Gaddafi's army comes to protect him. I'd rather, have dinner with my kids in peace.
Rabbi Shmuley, thanks for coming in tonight.
God bless you.
Thank you.
I say back.
1, 2, 3.